Hey guys, I'm Randy Unger, and this is another episode of Unger the Radar, where we talk all things film. And as always, I have a wonderful panel of guest critics tonight. We've got Erica A. Erica, welcome back.
Hi, Randy. Glad to be here. I didn't expect I'd find the moment to come back, but I'm excited for this episode, and so here we are.
Here we are, and it's very, very exciting. We also have Rachel Kolb and Eric Godfrey. Hey guys.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good to see you. Welcome back as well. We've got Chris Clemente, sir. Hello.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Yes, welcome. And Forrest Bennett, welcome back.
Randy, good. It's great. It's been a while, but it's great. It's glad to be back.
Happy to have all of you tonight. This is amazing. And we're about to talk about one of my favorite actors working today. And he has experienced something of a resurgence in his career due to the upcoming film, The Whale, which got rave reviews, a standing ovation at a film festival. And I'm talking about, of course, Mr. Brendan Fraser, who, he was very successful in the 90s. He was a leading man, a solidified movie star. And he kind of had a slump in the 2010s, but up until a few years ago, he came back full force. And I think it's very appropriate that we talk about the Brendan-ssance that's going on right now. The Whale is coming out in December, but I didn't want to wait that long to have this discussion because he is so great and he has given us so many great, memorable roles. And I just want to talk about that tonight. Also, everyone watching, this will be a two-part episode. So tonight we will just be discussing the 1990s filmography of Fraser's career. And I just want to do some like opening comments real quick, guys. What are your thoughts of Brendan, and what are some of your fond memories of his movies? Erica A, after you.
Oh, okay. Well, I would say that when we take only the 90s and split it off there, my favorite and least favorite Brendan Fraser movie both fall in that category.
Okay. Which one?
Oh, my least favorite is Encino Man, and my favorite of all time is Airheads.
Interesting.
Yes.
Airheads is amazing. I totally agree with you on that one. But
And also it's amazing because it's just such an amazing cast. When you look at it, even in retrospect, how many people you can find in the crowd randomly.
You know, Ernie Hudson's the cop, Michael McKean's in it, Michael Richards,
Harold Ramis.
Very
Ghostbusters reunion right there.
There you go.
Chris Farley is there. He's the cop. And
Lemmy.
Joe
Buscemi.
And no one recognized the other guy who made his name in Boardwalk Empire. I don't have his name right now, but
Steve Buscemi.
movie.
Buscemi's great. I love Buscemi. But that's interesting. So Encino Man is your least favorite.
Oh God, not just because I couldn't swallow Pauly Shore much in the
I was gonna
90s.
say someone's not a Pauly Shore fan.
He's very annoying. Yeah, I'll give you that one. But I literally, that was the last movie I watched today of Brendan's, and I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't like hilarious or anything, but it was just a fun movie to watch.
No,
And
it was a fun movie. It's just Pauly Shore just rubs me the wrong way, and it just always left me frustrated.
You're not alone.
Everybody the wrong way in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, he somehow managed to. Yeah, he still managed to last at least a whole decade before he disappeared.
Him and Carrot Top were a toss-up.
Oh God.
Yeah, but Carrot Top only had one movie before audiences got sick of him.
Sounds like someone who hasn't seen Biodome.
Oh God. I only like that movie for William Atherton. Forrest, some of your fond memories of Fraser's career.
Let's see. Definitely. Okay. So for me, for me, the first movie of his that I saw in theaters was George of the Jungle.
Okay.
Which I had it on VHS as a kid. I don't know if I should get too much into it because I kind of want to save it for the discussion.
Sure.
And then Blast from the Past, that's one of those movies that was, if it was ever on television, I'd stop and watch it. But the one that I always come back to, my favorite, and I have to agree with Erica on this, Airheads.
Yeah.
Because first I'm wearing this Motorhead t-shirt because of that part where they say Lemmy is God.
I love the reference.
And because for me, because I'm a huge heavy metal fan. Mm-hmm. So and this movie, along with this is Spinal Tap, is like one of the is like some of the ultimate heavy metal movies.
Yeah, great.
Uh,
And it
well,
came
it's
out 2 years after Wayne's World, so it was kind of
Yeah.
in that same
Yeah,
vein.
I would say Spinal Tap and Wayne's. Yeah, Spinal Tap, Airheads, and Wayne's World are for me like like as a metalhead quintessential cinematic viewing.
Nice.
You
have the soundtrack?
I do not, but I do. But I do have. But their rendition of Reagan Youth, Degenerated, is on my SoundCloud playlist.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's on. I don't think it's unfortunately, I would love to get my hands on the soundtrack. That way, I could actually have a copy of it in case it ever disappears from the web.
Yeah, YouTube, my friend. You could YouTube that.
Yeah,
download the file.
But yeah, great cast, including Fraser. The music's excellent, and I just find it hilarious.
And Brendan anchors it really well. Like it's his movie. Like he's the lead. He's the star. And he does a fantastic job. So
yeah, it's like, actually with in regards to Airheads, it's like I know Adam Sandler's like he gets third billing, and it's but I never really think of it as an Adam Sandler movie. I think of it as
because it's like one of his first roles, isn't it?
I was gonna say that really is kind of what took Adam Sandler from SNL and put him into the movies.
Yeah. I think before that he did a movie called Going Overboard,
which nobody talks about because it's terrible.
Yeah.
1989. So
was Airheads a Happy Madison movie?
I don't think so. No.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So like you can't really call it a family movie.
Although it is an early role for Sandler, for one of Sandler's regulars, Alan Covert, who played one of the cops.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Rachel and Eric, how about you guys? Fond memories of Fraser?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I would say that the really wonderful thing about Brendan Fraser, he has a very unique combination of things. He's this very good-looking guy, especially in a lot of his early work. Very tall, like very fit and everything. Also has this very wide-eyed, innocent look to his face that he pulls off these sort of like man in a weird, like out of his element in an unusual situation. He pulls that off very well. And that he also has just a really great comedic sense of humor. So that plays a lot into some of my favorite roles from that era, like George of the Jungle. But it also plays really well into what I think is one of his most underrated, like very, very small roles. He has an uncredited role in the movie Now and Then, where he plays a Vietnam vet. And
I saw so much Brendan stuff, but I didn't see it Now and Then.
Yeah, it's actually available on HBO Max. He only has the one scene in it. Basically, for those that haven't seen the movie, Now and Then is kind of like Stand By Me, but for girls. Like it's set back at a very specific time, and it's about like this friendship and one summer that they all spend together. And there's this sequence where they're basically biking to a nearby town to look into some newspaper archives, and they end up meeting him on the road, and he's walking with like his bag, and he has an army jacket on, and they're asking him about what it's really like over in Vietnam. And in this very, very short scene, he like pushes them to like challenge a lot of stuff about, like, he treats them very, like, he doesn't treat them like kids. He talks to them directly, and he says, you know, the government's lying about this. You know, like, it isn't what they say that it is. And they're like, and he also got injured over in Vietnam, and he explains why he won't wear his Purple Heart. I mean, the fact that he does all of that in this very short scene and endears himself and makes him this very memorable, small character in this movie is just really like a testament to him as an actor.
So he's a philosophical drifter,
yeah, very much so.
I think he's basically a Vietnam.
I thought he
Hipster.
was more of a historical landmark than a philosophical. He's the statement of what our country's going to evolve from. He's sort of there to help shape the future and teach the next generation how to end the war more than the philosophical type. He was more of a landmark, but in a way, I guess he could be.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good. That's a good YouTube search for the right there. Cool. All right, good to Now and Then. Is that the one where Rosie O'Donnell plays the adult version of Christina?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think I saw it a long time ago when it first came.
That was, I mean,
It
that was
was
one of
Yellow
the-
Jackets before Yellow Jackets.
Honestly, that was one of those movies that my sister. That was one of those movies that my sister would like regularly watch if it was on television.
Nice. And Eric, I think I know what you're gonna mention for your favorite Brendan Fraser role.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. His 3-episode cameo in Scrubs is some of the probably one of the best TV cameos I could think of. I mean, the fact that he's got 3 episodes. Scrubs is one of my favorite shows. He has 3 episodes, and to this day is probably in one of the saddest episodes of television that I could think of off the top of my head. And the fact that he was able to come into that cast and just act so naturally, so fast with all of them, and then have that much, like, you cannot find a Scrubs fan and say, where do you think we are, and not watch them just break down into like tears right there. And it's all because of just that perfect character of his. But with Brendan, with Fraser, he's always weirdly been, growing up, whatever I've been interested in, he's been featured in that. Like Encino Man. Well, I was at the age where Pauly Shore comedies were hilarious. Boom. Well, okay, I'm in school. We're learning about bigotry and anti-Semitism. Teacher's going to show school ties. Hey, I'm getting into these my mom's old cartoons. I love this George of the Jungle. Well, there's the George of the Jungle movie. So it's like whatever I was growing up and interested in, somehow he was always magically a part of. So that's why it's like there's so much association with the things that I was interested in and him directly.
Yeah. Plus, yeah, his filmography is so jam-packed with great performances and such memorable scenes and just the genres. He can pretty much do any genre. I think the only genre he hasn't done is horror. Though he did a thriller.
I was gonna say The Mummy is a remake of a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
But it's more of an
Like,
adventure.
The Mummy doesn't
Yeah.
count.
That's an action adventure, really.
Yeah.
But it's an action adventure set over the classic horror movie, not quite scene for scene, line for line, but it's the same story.
It is a remake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the 50s or the 40s?
30s.
30s.
Yeah, I was
okay.
gonna say it was because
Yeah.
30s, because he served with the Legion. So sorry.
I'm an opera, yeah. I think it does take place in the 30s, yeah. Chris.
No, I was saying when the movie was originally made.
Oh,
yeah.
The original movie was from the 30s. Was set in was came out in the 30s.
but it takes
Oh, it
place.
has sound. That would make it the 40s, wouldn't it?
No, sound started in the 30s.
I think the Mummy
Okay.
came out
Yeah.
like late 30s, early 40s.
Well,
40,
if you-
41.
Down with the Wind was 39. Yeah.
2017. Oh wait.
Not that Mummy.
Wow, I didn't know Tom Cruise
I
had
mean,
been
I've
making
seen
movies
that
for
one.
that long.
It does play on a regular rotation on
Oh.
several of the old movie channels, but I couldn't remember. But I'm like, I feel like, is it, or am I completely off and it just looks like it's from like 1940?
According to this, the Boris Karloff Mummy came out in 1932.
32.
32. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Chris Clemente, how
Mhm.
about you, sir?
We were just talking about Brendan. I like him as a leading man, and I think he's special. I mean, I don't think he has the best range, but I think kind of piggybacking off of Rachel, he is a special leading man. Like I think he back in the '90s, he definitely looked the part. He has this wholesomeness that is not very conventional to Hollywood. But looking at his filmography and watching some of his films again, what I find special about him is that he accentuates great performances from the people around him. And a lot of the movies where that point to Brendan Fraser as part of his filmography, what makes him great is not necessarily him, but really the whole picture. Like looking at 1994, I think that's probably one of my favorite years of his. It was such a strong year. Airheads, I remember that was like on my playlist. That was on my, like if we had DVR back in the day, it would have been on repeat, But that isn't necessarily what I consider a Fraser film. Like if I look at that film, I kind of think of Sandler first. I kind of think of the little bit that Farley had in there, but he kind of wraps everything up, and I appreciate that for him as a leading actor. My favorite films of him probably include With Honor. That is one of the earlier pieces I remember him. Okay. But again, he's great, but I think Pesci kind of steals the show for that. Like especially that scene where he tells off the Harvard professor and like him, kind of mimicking, that line with the dog, and all that. So when he's about to pass. But looking at 1994 in particular, a film that really stands out, and I think kind of accentuates him as a leading man is The Scout. That is a great performance by Al Brooks, but it is such a tender and sweet performance by Brendan Fraser. I have like scenes of that movie seared into my brain. I think of Laundry different because of that movie. And I think it just, in a way, it also kind of mirrors his own experience in Hollywood and him being underneath the spotlight and the intensity of that. And I think it's a great reflection, but I think it's a great performance from him. It's a great performance by all the cast members there, including Albert Brooks. And I think that year in particular is strong when we look back at the 90s, and I think it propels him into the franchises that he was part of. And and I'm in fast forwarding to The Whale today. I'm so happy that he has this renaissance and this new appreciation for him, and I'm glad that he can actually appreciate Hollywood and not be tormented by it. So I think out of any actor, I think he is so genuine. At least I don't know him, but he comes across as genuine. That I think if anyone deserves a second win, a second chance in Hollywood, it's him.
I'll tell you, when I saw The Mummy, I was 14, and I definitely had a man crush on Brendan. So I did go back and watch a bunch of his movies back then, and this was over 20 years ago. And I'm doing the exact same thing this week. And it's even better now. It's more, it's more profound now. I know it's like he just gets better and better. And I'm really happy for him and The Whale and everything that he's done. He's just given us so much, such greatness. And Chris, back to The Scout. That's actually one of my favorite scores by Bill Conti. I don't know if you're a fan.
Bring it back to the score. I love it.
I have to. Come on. How often does The Scout get mentioned?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Plus, for me, I'm a huge Yankees fan, so it definitely resonated with that movie. Definitely resonated with me. Nice cameo from George Steinbrenner too.
Right. He's on the roof. He's on the roof. And for me, I'll be honest. So all the movies you guys mentioned, I love as well. But I recently discovered Gods and Monsters from 1998. And this movie blew me away. And it basically stars Ian McKellen as James Whale, the director of the original Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein in the 30s. Basically, he is a recluse now. He's a homosexual, and he develops an attraction and a bond with Brendan Fraser's character, who plays a gardener. And it's just a very subtle, a very quiet film. It's all about dialogue. And it's all about the tension between these two men. What's going to happen? Brendan Fraser knocks it out of the park. He's wonderful in it. It's a great drama of his. If you guys haven't seen Gods and Monsters, I highly recommend that. It's from 1998, and it's just a really powerful film.
And apparently it's because of that film, that's why he's in The Whale. Darren Aronofsky wasn't really familiar with his filmography, but saw him in that and was like, he has to be in The Whale type of thing. Yeah.
It's a powerful performance. It's really great range there.
Kind of going off what Chris said, I wonder if one of the reasons why we never really got to see the range of Brendan is because of that he was very much seen as like most of his stuff in the 90s especially was comedies, and
Yeah.
especially like the
I
very
found them-
wholesome comedies.
They were
Typecast.
also blockbusters, a lot of them.
Yeah. mhm.
Yeah.
That he was bouncing from Airheads to George of the Jungle to The Mummy, where he was always having to be the charismatic and the sweet guy. And so I
Mhm.
wonder if that's why we're kind of seeing that differently, because now that he's back, he seems to be pursuing more dramatic roles like The Whale or No Sudden Move. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's also out of necessity for
Right.
him because of the injury that he suffered
Right.
on the Mummy 2.
He had a
And
few- I
that-
think he had more than one injury. I think he had a couple.
Yeah,
had a really
I
severe
know
one,
that
though,
I know that he had a pretty severe back injury.
I just saw it's raining.
Um,
Close the window.
Get some right here. Yeah, I know that he suffered a pretty severe back injury, which has limited his ability to do stuff like The Mummy, or even say something like in Blast from the Past. Like his character does a lot of dancing in that movie. Like it's a surprisingly very physical role. So I think by necessity he has to lean into some of those other skills that he has.
Right.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, and he's older now, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely had a few major surgeries in the past, which kind of limited his, his acting. I know he was very physical in Looney Tunes Back in Action, which is
Which I thought that was where he injured his back, because that's where it really came up all over the news, that while he was shooting it, how much back trouble he had in the surgeries.
yeah.
He might have been exasperated by it, and like it might have like started on
The Mummy too.
Mummy and then just
I don't think he had he got injured in George of the Jungle, really. I mean, that was a very physical role too, but it's-
yeah, but I
But a lot
don't
of that-
remember.
He was
Remember.
pretty young at that point.
Yeah.
yeah. All right, guys. So what I want to do is I want to go through Brendan's filmography right now. Not the whole thing, obviously. We're just going to do the 90s. And I think we've just covered about half of that. Right?
True.
So let's just start it off. So I didn't even realize this until now. He did his first appearance, acting appearance was in a TV movie in 1991 called Child of Darkness, Child of Light. And if any of you guys have seen any of the movies I'm about to mention, just chime in, feel free.
Okay.
I've
No,
never,
but this feels like when Tom Hanks had that made for
The Dungeons
TV
and
about the
Dragons.
evils of Dungeons and Dragons movie that he made.
Maze the Monster. That was his first. Yeah, that was a TV movie.
Yeah.
Too. That's funny. All right, so that's Child of Darkness, Child of Light. Okay. And the next one I actually saw last week called Dogfight. It's from 1991, and he plays Sailor Number 1. And they misspelled his name Brendan with an O.
Oh God, no.
And Dawn.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser. So that's not a good start. All right, next up we've got another TV movie called Guilty Until Proven Innocent. Another one called
That actually sounds familiar.
yeah. Let's see here. My Old School, another TV movie. Oh, and here we go. So his first theatrical film from 1992, Encino Man. And I just watched this. I rewatched it tonight, and it holds up. It's 30 years old. I think it's a lot of fun. You've got Sean Astin and of course Pauly Shore.
And Ki Hu also, I know he was a minor role, but Ki Hu Kwan. So
yeah,
Right.
so Mini Goonies. Well, I don't think they had any scenes together, but Mini Goonies reunion, sort of to speak.
exactly. 7 years after the Goonies. So that's Encino Man. I think it was a nice introduction to Brendan's career. And
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing it, like, because I remember when I was young, like I said, I was at the age where Pauly Shore was the new thing. And so I remember seeing it, and I remember liking it but I was young. And so I have not revisited it since then. I think I'm kind of like, I'm afraid to, because it's one of those ones where like, oh man, I remember when I was a kid. It was really hilarious. You put it on, you're just like,
Nope.
yeah, no, it doesn't happen.
I've already been there and been there,
I
done
don't
that.
remember that part. No, I don't remember
Okay.
that part either.
no,
Well, I
it's
guess
it's
it's a
a
good
fun kid movie.
concept.
Yeah. And
But
now
well,
we
I
heard-
love when I was telling Rachel about it. She's like, isn't that just Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer? And it's like, yeah, that's basically about it.
So it should have been Phil Hartman in Encino Man.
It should have been that's what they should have. That's the true
His
cameo.
dad,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
at the end it would have been his dad coming out, going back to law school.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so that was 1992, and then the same year he did not a very funny movie, but a very great film, School Ties. Now, this movie deals with anti-Semitism, and it's got some of the earliest roles, if not the first roles, for Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Also, Chris O'Donnell, Cole Hauser, and yeah, it's just this is a very great cast of young actors.
Mhm.
And
Anthony Rapp being the
Oh,
least
yeah.
likable that he's ever been in anything.
Yeah.
He is awful.
He's
in
so
it.
evil.
is-
Like, I mean, he's like great at playing awful. The character is just an awful person, but
No. That's the first time I've seen Rapp in that type of role. I've never seen him as a jerk before.
yeah,
that's true.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he is
Plus a
really
racist
just
one.
Yeah, I was gonna say he plays a jerk in the first season of Discovery, but not a bigot.
Yeah, but fantastic film. And Eric, you saw it in high school, history class.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a social. I can't remember the exact one. I think it was a social studies class. But essentially, it was like, okay, kids, we're going to learn about bigotry and anti-Semitism, and of course, young Eric, who was like, we live in the '90s. Racism is gone. We won. So it's like I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, I don't get it. They hate him because he's a Jew, and it's like yeah, and it's like I don't. And now watching it again today, it's just like, oh man, this is weirdly relevant again, and I don't like it.
Yeah. And it's okay. So it's Brendan's first dramatic role, and I think he is fantastic in it. He knocks it out of the park. At this point, I think he's about 21 or 22, and definitely showing great acting chops, great range. All right. So after this, he did two films that weren't really that popular.
Before we move
yeah,
on from School Ties real quick, I just wanted to mention that in his review, Roger Ebert actually called out Brendan's acting in School Ties, and he referred to, like, he was like, yes, we saw this Brendan Fraser in Encino Man, but here he shows that he's like quite a good actor and like carries the movie and the dramatics and everything.
Well, he's
It's-
done all kinds of crazy things. So
I don't think Encino Man got 2 thumbs up.
No,
And
But
I forgot something else about School Ties. Oh, sorry, Forrest.
I was gonna say, hell, back in the early '80s, Gene Siskel spoke very negatively of Tom Hanks's career. Like, he said he hoped that Hanks would never make another movie again. Flash forward a decade later, and he's singing his praises.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, sometimes it takes that right movie. But the other thing for School Ties that I always remember that made it fresh in my mind was saw it in high school or either middle school or high school, and fast forward to where Family Guy did the joke where Brian does the standing outside in the rain doing cowards, and me sitting there be like, I get that joke, and watch all the people around me being like, what is, like, it's from School Ties.
Right. It's a little obscure. I like it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So-
I will say that just Roger Ebert's review of School Ties is a very good little bit of writing. It is available on rogerebert.com, so suggest seeking that out.
Sounds good.
is it a
All right.
spoiler?
So that's quite a year. 92. He went from Encino Man to a school. Okay, cool. All right. Next up, we have two films that were not very popular, but I actually saw one of them last night called $20, which has sort of an ensemble cast: Elizabeth Shue, Christopher Lloyd, and Steve Buscemi. And it follows a $20 bill, and as it goes from person to person, and the stories of each person. And the story behind that $20 bill. It was very good, actually. It was from 1993. And Brendan has, he's not the star, but he does have a relatively decent performance in that. So that's called $20. Next up, a film called Younger and Younger. And I did not see that. I think I saw it a long time ago during my first Brendan-ssance. And that
The first wave.
yes, the first time. And that co-stars Donald Sutherland. Next up, we've got Son-in-Law, where Brendan has a cameo appearance as Link from Encino Man. So yeah, and he would later do the same with In the Army Now, which was another Pauly short film. So I guess they're buddies.
Or at the time they were buddies. Who knows? Well, who knows who knows now?
Where
They
even
were
is
work
Pauly Shore?
friends.
Yeah. All right, so let's see here. I jumped ahead a little bit. So okay, Son-in-Law. Then Chris, you've got your With Honors, fantastic
There you
film.
go.
Wonderful, wonderful performance from.
I'm with Chris. Like, I never have seen the whole movie as a whole, but I did catch it on TV once, and I did see, and I could see where Joe Pesci's got his big
Yeah.
talk down to the big Harvard Ivy League professor.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ones I've always wanted to go back and revisit, but that I've always remembered just seeing that one scene with Pesci doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, that film stood out for me for a whole mess of reasons. It also kind of shed a new light on Joe Pesci, who up to this point was like known as the gangster, like like just the Italian, bulldog.
Trying to do something different.
Yeah, so this was something completely different. But between his performance and Fraser's performance, I think just complements it. Like he is just the younger lead who, for the most part, it was more about the romantic relationship that he had, and it was about him trying to prove himself as kind of not this pretentious Ivy League guy, but someone who's actually down to earth and can actually street talk, if you will. But it was just I remember it being on. There's a couple of movies as a kid that always played HBO. The Hudsucker Proxy played a lot. I remember I didn't really realize that I was a Coen brother fan, until years later. I'm like, I love this Hudsucker Proxy, and this was like part of that, So, I mean, it was just a great performance. It shed light to me about Brendan Fraser, and you just got to see the striking guy, and that you knew that he was destined to be bigger, so.
Under the Radar is brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a 2 to match your attitude. Patent pending, interchange genuine gemstone and crystal EMF protection jewelry. For more information, please visit magnitudejewelry.com/gemgirl or call 718-268-6634.
Occurred to me, I think last night, that Fraser's kind of like Nicolas Cage, but not as edgy, not as insane. But I feel they're kind of cut from the same cloth.
I feel like Chris, you said you compared him more to Chris Pratt. I think that's a good one too.
I was the one who compared it to Chris Pratt.
Sorry, Forrest. You like I'm like, you know what? And when you said that, I'm like, I see where you're coming from.
I could definitely see it. Well, I'm just talking about him. I never really talked at length about Brendan Fraser before, but just I kind of like him more, and I think just like you were just mentioning $20, which kind of sounds like a lighter version of Crash minus the racism and the car crash and everything. But I think what's special about him is that he knows how to play the lead. He knows how to be a chameleon and let others shine.
Yes.
I mean, if you look, I mean, even before his break in what was it, early 2010s, you could see that he wasn't every year, doing 3 or 4 films, but he was constantly working, and I think he knew how to balance that at least. So I think he's definitely a special actor in Hollywood. I think as we've been mentioning, I think it's great that he's getting this credit and this appreciation now. So,
and every interview I've seen of him recently in the past couple weeks, he just seems like such a humble, down to earth, cool guy, just like a nice. And I'm not happy enough.
It's to the point where I have to stop watching those interviews because I'm like, how can anyone be this great and this sweet? And
I get exactly what you mean.
Like, maybe that's the best acting that he's done.
Wow.
Well, I will say, like, even before the press tour of The Whale, this kind of goes back to there was an interview he gave actually with a cosplayer who specifically, one of her most famous cosplays is as Rachel Weisz's character from The Mummy.
Saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and in her interview, she basically said to him, you know, we're so like happy to see you on screen again. We're so happy you're back and everything. And his reaction is very similar to those ones that you're seeing right now with The Whale, that it's just he doesn't quite know he doesn't quite know how to process it, and he's just so happy about it, and he's just like, oh shucks, lady.
Right.
He's great. I love him. And I'm really hoping that's his true persona, his true personality.
Yeah.
I hope he's not like Tom Hanks, but I'm not going to get you guys know
I will say that all that I've seen of his interactions, especially with fans at conventions, he's a very generous person with his time. He's very appreciative as far as even with references to like the Mummy ride at Universal. A lot of people that are fans of the ride will do like the meet and greets, and they'll bring him cups of coffee because there's a running gag in the ride that I never got my cup of coffee, that he's constantly asking this intern to get him a cup of coffee, and the intern keeps getting intercepted. And at the end of the ride, he's like, I hope you enjoyed your ride. I would have enjoyed it a lot more if I'd gotten my cup of coffee. So people will show up at conventions and bring him cups of coffee. Or even there was one person that came dressed up, their costume was Brendan Fraser's cup of coffee. Like it had his name on the side of it and everything. So that's like he's always, from what I've seen, has been very generous with his time and very appreciative of his fans. So
all right, guys. So we are still in the early 90s here. I'm gonna just list off some. Okay, so with honors, Airheads, mentioned that.
Classic.
In the Army Now, where you brought back Link. We've got.
I saw that once on cable. I saw that once on cable when I was like 8 years old, and I haven't seen it since.
Pretty bad.
You're not missing anything.
Time for the Pauly Shore Renaissance.
Oh God!
Oh, it's never coming.
It's time.
No.
Where's Pauly Shore?
I mean,
Apparently, he inherited his
Right,
mother's comedy club. That's what I looked him up. He inherited his late mother's
Hashtag where
comedy
is
club.
Pauly Shore?
Yeah, we're getting
No,
that
I
trend
believe
tonight.
they've
Everyone
done
tweet
that
it out.
documentary already.
Oh God. Okay. The Scout, which is amazing.
Yes.
He
Mhm.
followed that with The Passion of Darkly Noon, which is a strange little thriller co-starring Ashley Judd and Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, that's all the cast.
Yeah, I started watching it. It wasn't that good. I kind of just
Okay.
lost
And I was like,
interest.
oh, I remember it once. It's really hard to get to the end.
Yeah,
So
that
I'm
was
glad I'm not the only one.
that was in '95. Next up, we've got Glory Days. Anybody seen that or?
Back
I'm not
then, I
familiar
don't
with that
really
one.
remember it. That would have seen it back in the 90s.
No,
when it
like
came.
to be honest, like I'm fuzzy now until like 97.
All right. Then he did a TV series called Fallen Angels. Then he did Now and Then as the Vietnam veteran, uncredited.
It's crazy that it's uncredited, isn't it?
He has a lot of
yeah.
them that are uncredited, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Same
He was
with
big enough that I would say he got big enough just that like maybe from Encino Man alone that people knew, like you knew who he was without even having to give him a credit.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think in that kind of contests a little bit of like his character is that like he can go from Encino Man or a big movie and then do just an uncredited thing here and there and just move on. So
Right.
pretty cool.
Next up, we've got the Kids in the Hall movie, Brain Candy from 1996.
Which I had no idea he was a placebo patient.
I had no idea he was
Yeah.
in that, but I was a huge, but I used to watch Kids in the Hall reruns on Comedy Central all the time when I was in middle school.
Which everyone should watch the new Kids in the Hall
Yes, the new
on
stuff is-
Amazon, because
oh my God.
they have not lost a beat.
No,
That's good.
if anything, they're even more,
Yeah.
even
I
more
asked for
strange.
my water to be hot.
No, my favorite is the radio DJ at the end of the world. That sketch with the "I've got a brand new pair of roller skates" song that just gets darker and darker and darker.
Yeah, Dave Foley may have outdone himself with that. With
Yeah.
that one
With
sketch.
the French restaurant or the French cafe with the blueberry tart. That one was good. I took a picture.
Yeah, so watch the new Kids in the Hall on
Yes.
Amazon Prime.
It's good.
They're still so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Do you need to be
I-
caught up with the original series
Mm,
to enjoy it?
The only
Mhm.
joke that they don't do a lot of there's only like a handful of recurring characters they bring back. But except for I love the joke that they are revived when Brain Candy finally made its money back, and they're stealing the devil's
because a VHS sold for $1
Yeah.
at a
Yeah.
garage
So
sale.
it's like now that Brain Candy has managed profit, their deal with the devil's done, and they can come back and do comedy again.
I will have to
it's
check it.
great.
Yeah,
It's great, yeah.
you do not really need that much familiarity with their past stuff to enjoy it.
And
No.
I having now seen Dave Foley and Brendan Fraser together in Blast from the Past, I would love to see them do another comedy together again.
Well, actually, I just watched Monkey Bone for the first time today, and they are in that together.
Oh,
Wow.
there we go.
Mm.
That we're gonna save that for the second half of this episode.
Move over Pauly Short. He has a new best friend.
Yeah.
I'll say Steve Buscemi. He's got Steve Buscemi too.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, he was in 20 Bucks, and then he was in Airheads with
Airheads.
Brendan. I'm trying to think of was Buscemi in any other Brendan movies as far as
I'm not sure.
I want to say yes, but
I mean, obviously, he did a lot more. He worked a lot more with Adam Sandler after Airheads.
that's true. All right. What else we got? Okay, so Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy, uncredited role as the placebo patient. Next up, we've got Mrs. Winterborn. I don't know if you guys seen that one.
Heard of it?
I
Haven't
think
seen it.
It's on HBO, and we were going to watch it,
Yeah.
but we passed on it for the time being.
It's an
Yeah.
it's an odd one. It's a romantic dramedy with Ricky Lake, and she basically gets involved with this rich family, and she develops a romantic relationship with Brendan Fraser, who actually plays two characters. Two brothers. They're identical twins, and something happens. There's a train wreck, and I'm not going to get into it, but
As far as Ricky Lake's acting career, I didn't think she did anything outside of John Waters movies.
I think this is the only thing she really pretty much did after what was it, Hairspray, right?
Well, no, she did Hairspray.
And Baby Cakes.
Yep.
If anyone is familiar with Baby Cakes,
Well, I know.
that's-
I know acting. Well, I know because Hairspray, Crybaby, Serial Mom,
That's what I'm
Pecker,
thinking. I know her from Crybaby mostly.
And Mrs. Winterborn.
and
Okay.
Cecil. Well, she also did Cecil B. Demented.
Okay. Yeah. So she did this movie in 96, and she actually had pretty good chemistry with Brendan. I recommend it. It's a sweet little film. It's quirky, but it's decent. So that was 96. Next up, this is on my list of stuff to watch. The Twilight of the Golds. I think it's a family dramedy as well, or a
Yeah,
drama.
no, it's an okay movie.
It's good. Okay.
Not good. That's too strong.
Not good.
a word. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too much of a pessimist. Okay, it's an okay movie.
Okay. Good. That's a glowing recommendation, Eric.
It's just good. Not glowing.
Okay, maybe it is for Erica.
All right. What do we got? He was in an episode of Duckman. I used to love that show. Next up, we've got a film called Still Breathing. I think it's another romantic drama. And
It's a
then
romantic comedy.
is it a comedy?
I think it's more like a rom-com.
Okay. All right. So that's Still Breathing. That's on my list. And also we have, this is basically, I think this is his breakthrough role, the role that got him noticed in 1997, George of the Jungle.
Mhm.
You know, I think
Brilliant movie.
Yeah,
A personal
from this,
favorite.
like this is the point where it's really like kicking into gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of like the Encino Man, you know, theme of fish out of
True,
water.
it's the character wise, he's sort of playing the same voice and the same personality, but he also is playing George of the Jungle, which is slightly nice that it's a different character while it's still some of the same ideas. Because if people realize or not, George of the Jungle is actually a cartoon
From the 60s. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say from the same people who brought you Rocky and Bullwinkle. But
Right, which he did Dudley Do-Right a few years later.
Which
Oh,
I'm
nice.
not as familiar with Dudley Do-Right, but I can say with George, and having been watching those cartoons at the time, because when Cartoon Network first started, that's
Yeah.
what they would really always show was all
Yeah.
kind of
Old
the
cartoon.
classic Rocky and Bullwinkles, and then
And
you know
they
the
pulled
before
George of the
Dexter's
Jungle
Lab
out of
and Johnny
nowhere.
Bravo,
Yeah.
and so I watched a lot of George of the Jungle, and because my parents were also like, oh yeah, I used to watch the show all the time as a kid, and
Yeah.
so when the movie came out, I was just like, wow, that's the cartoon that
Yeah.
they put the cartoon. They took everything and just put it
Yeah.
right
They
up
made
there.
it real life and believable, but
Yeah.
it was before everything was overly CGI.
Like, I would put
Yeah.
it on. Like I would put it on my short list of like good cartoon to film adaptations.
Yeah,
True, those are few
we
and
have
far
the
between.
narrator. It's like everything, like just the feel of the old cartoon
was-
is just right there.
Yeah, the movie's extremely meta for being like it's a
Goofy-
pretty
goofy
broad
comedy.
comedy, but
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it also has these moments, especially with the narration, that are
That's what makes it for me.
Yeah.
The narration.
John Cleese, I think, kills it as the ape who can speak.
Ape named Ape.
Thank you. I thought he was perfect for that voice role. And again, you know, Brendan really does. He's very masculine in this.
Yes.
He's very physical, but he's also very endearing. He's very
But
sensitive.
he's also not too overly muscular. He looks believable as a guy who grew up in the jungle. He doesn't look like a guy who's been lifting elephants over his head for the last 20 years when Ursula arrives.
He's a goofy Tarzan, and it works really well in his favor.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
He's very sweet. He's masculine, but sensitive, and it's just a great combination. He brings that to all his roles, I think. And even the Mummy. Again, he's not like this macho guy.
No.
Yeah.
He's you know, he's tall and he's imposing, but at the same time, he's likable. He's like a regular guy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
more
he's
in the vein of Han Solo, the likable scoundrel.
Yeah.
he's a kinder, gentler Fabio in that there's the scene from George of the Jungle when he's like running with the horses and stuff at
Right.
I think they're at like a
They're
country
at her
club or
house.
something,
It's her
and he's just
engagement
like and all the women are just like sitting around going, oh, he's so pretty. And he's got the long flowing
Yeah.
hair and everything.
Yeah, he definitely sells it in that respect.
Mhm.
And Mark Sherman provides a great score in George of the Jungle. But side note there.
And we even have a good
Okay,
villain turned by Thomas Hayden Church.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
Yes.
great
Wow.
villain.
That he plays great opposite the villain Lyle.
Mhm.
I would have loved to have seen more of Thomas Hayden Church in that, actually.
I think it would have taken away from the dynamic if they had. He was in just enough so we feel for him, but
Yeah.
he's not overshadowing or overbearing and taking away, because his character wouldn't exist in the original cartoon in the source material.
And by the way, I think Leslie Mann was pretty perfect as the female love interest.
Yeah, that was like one of her early
Yeah.
roles.
Ursula.
Yeah, I think it was. And she was also herself kind of goofy, but it just they complemented each other really well. And
Mhm.
it's just a fun movie. It is very childish, but at the same time, adults can enjoy it. You know, Chris, I know you have the little one. Would you show George of the Jungle to Liam?
I would. Thinking about it though, I'm kind of nervous that he would really respond well to that and want to be George and swing all over the house.
Yeah, I was going to
but,
say, not yet. 'cause you
Not
don't
good
want
for
to
accident
swing off
prone
something
children.
and break his arm.
Disclaimer. Do not swing around.
but like to that regard, man, I am really gushing over Fraser. I didn't realize that I love the guy so much. But like it's
And there's
he
the
has
secret.
right there. You're just bringing it out in me. But between George of the Jungle and just looking ahead with Dudley Do-Right and Looney Tunes, like he does dip into that child well, and like it's part of that wholesome character that he
I think
portrays.
I think George of the Jungle was like a transitioning point for him, that he started moving
Yeah.
into the more child-friendly,
Yeah.
the buddy comedy type, little more raunchy, to something more child-friendly at this point.
Almost like a man-child who gets thrown into these random adventures, and we're along with him for the ride, and it's a great.
Yeah.
So George of the Jungle was 97. Now we're going to get into 1998, where he did a film. I think I discussed this earlier. Gods and Monsters, fantastic film. I saw it like a week ago, and I'm still blown away by how good it was.
Yeah, to be honest, like I'm pumped to see it. I've never seen it before. It's a blind spot for me.
Yeah.
Like,
as a huge Frankenstein fan, I feel like I need to check. I really should check. I should have checked it out already.
Yeah,
and
especially before The Whale. Yeah.
And there's scenes in the movie where they kind of like recreate the behind the scenes aspect of filming Bride of Frankenstein, where they have actors playing the original actors.
It's extremely Ed Woodish.
Yeah, pretty much like that. Yeah,
it is. It is interesting looking back at like this Fraser, his filmography, and realize he's like, man, he really has acted with a lot of, like, the fact that it's like there's Ian McKellen and like Donald Sutherland. It's like, wow, he really was like opposite a lot of really big names for his time.
Yeah.
And he compliments them all. Like, he doesn't overshadow them or anything, but he's there. He's a true collaborator. A great,
But like I was saying, in the 90s, it's like he might have not been the A-list actor, but he was the go-to guy who complimented all the big names of the time.
Exactly.
Indeed. So good.
Well put.
And just seeing his early stuff just makes me appreciate him now more than ever. And the Whale does not come out until December, but I am pumped for that. Also,
is there a trailer out for that? I'm trying to find a trailer.
No,
I don't
there
think
isn't.
Yet. There's just
I'm getting led into like
the
these.
only thing they have is that one picture that they put out,
Yeah.
but that's it.
Right.
I'm getting looped into these YouTube videos of like these fan-made trailers. I'm like, this is not a trailer.
Yeah.
I feel like almost at this point, with how much has been discussed about, especially the prosthetics and everything, I feel like I think maybe they're a little bit scared to put out a trailer. Like, I think,
or they're really like, they want to hang on to that, until they can really like blow up and really get some good publicity out of it.
Yeah, I could see that.
Is it a one-shot location?
Yeah, it all takes place in his apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that,
like it does in the original play.
Right. Love that. Big fan of those type of films too. Carnage is a great movie. That just
one we watched here, The Humans, was that is all shot in the one apartment.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. That was amazing.
Yeah, because I know that and not to get too far off into The Whale, because I know we haven't seen it yet, but I have read a number of interviews and things about adapting it. And apparently Darren Aronofsky really leaned into the claustrophobic nature of it instead of trying to like quote like make it cinematic by like moving it outside of that apartment or like trying to find a way to open up the world. He leaned into the fact that this is a guy who has like isolated himself, and it basically has a prison of his own making at this point. So
excited to see it. I'm excited for him to get all the nominations eventually. It's gonna be a good season.
It'll be a good one,
yeah. All right, guys. So we are now in 1998 and Gods and Monsters. He did an episode of The Simpsons.
Which I looked up.
I remember that one.
It's the one where Homer loses all the weight and goes to climb the mountain.
The murder horn.
Yeah, which has one of my favorite Homer lines of all time, which is a gime walks in.
What's a gime?
A gime.
Yes. And it wasn't. If I recall correctly, Brendan played a representative for Power Sauce.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The one that's encouraging him to scale the mountain.
Murder horn. Yeah.
That's a great episode.
Underrated episode.
It's called, the episode is called King of the Hill from 1998. So,
Would that have been before there was show King of the Hill?
Oh, King of the Hill came out in 97.
That's what I was, because
It's
I'm
just
like,
the name of
it's
the
like the
episode.
same time, and is it like it? But it's right after. Okay.
Yeah.
But they were definitely, I think it was definitely a nod to that show too. So
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we are almost done with the 90s. We've got Blast from the Past, which we have another kind of fish out of water story. Great character from Brendan.
Where you really see,
very wide-eyed and
that wholesome comedy comes shining through.
Yes.
And you've got a wonderful supporting cast. You've got Christopher
Walken, Sissy Spacek, Alicia
there's-
Silverstone,
and of course Nathan Fillion and Alicia Silverstone.
Mark Foley, or was it Mark Foley, right?
Dave Foley.
Dave Foley, yeah. It's just a really quirky, fun comedy. And yeah, I think that's in my top 5 of all-time Brendan movies.
I agree. I would agree. It's yeah, he definitely seems to be more in his most element when he's doing fish out of water stuff. So like that, or like George of the Jungle, he spends a good chunk of that movie out of the jungle. So
yeah. Nice. Okay. And now we have probably his most famous role in The Mummy as Rick O'Connell, which he would go on to reprise in 2 sequels, and the Ride, as we mentioned.
And a Saturday morning cartoon based off of his character that he wasn't in.
Yeah, if you think about it, kind of did, like, because there was that, because for a long time it took forever for Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and Harrison Ford to get a 4th Indiana Jones movie off the ground, and that movie felt like it filled that void as far as big budget homages to classic serial adventures. It filled that, like, The Mummy filled that void in that.
I always wondered who would be more an adversary, or who would be able to win in a battle, though they wouldn't actually be battling each other, Rick O'Connell or Indiana Jones. But if they were in the same temple and they had to go for the same relic, whip versus the dynamite throwing, who would win? Who would get to it and get out of it before
Rick's dirtier.
Well, here's the factor. Do they get to keep Marion, or do they get to keep their female counterparts? Like, do they get Marion and Rachel Weisz's character, who I feel terrible I'm blanking on her name, but
Evie.
Yep, the
well,
librarian.
I think what matters not is which girl, but how many sidekicks you get. If Rick O'Connell has to carry his son on his back through the whole thing, and if he has his worthless brother-in-law there.
Or whereas like Indy's got, does he have solid? Does he have short round?
Well, I was gonna say, because if we're going sidekicks, I'm gonna give it to Rick, because all he needs is the character that Oded Fair played.
That's what I'm thinking. That I don't want to have
like him alone. It's like the two of them, they'd be unstoppable.
The Magi army.
Yeah.
So Indiana Jones and Rick O'Connell, they're very similar, but and they're very different. So Rick O'Connell has the weaponry, he's got the hardware, so he's a little more macho in that respect. I think,
but Indy doesn't need it. All he needs is a whip and a gun.
Indiana Jones is more kind of agile and sneaky.
His wit,
so they're very.
He's also more
different.
educated, I guess. Evelyn does the thinking part for him.
You're right. That's a good point. So brains over brawn.
How about this question now? Who makes a better mummy lead, Fraser or Cruise?
You love.
Oh, not even
I have not seen the new Mummy. 2017.
I've mentioned it on your show, Randy, but I'm a big fan of the new Mummy, which I was
so disappointed in it.
I loved it. I will support that movie. I think it's I think it's doing,
but
yeah, I think it's just because there's so much of a great reception of Fraser's Mummy that like the new Mummy was just like it was just so far left.
It just fell apart halfway through. I felt the plot randomly went when he has these weird things that bite her right now.
I'm gonna check it out. I know it's got the
I haven't seen it.
In all honesty, I was really pumped up for this dark universe from Universal. When they started with the Mummy, I was like, all right, and then like they were talking about the Invisible Man with Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie as the Bride of Frankenstein. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I can get on board with that.
It sounded so great. And
The
it's
Yeah.
like, how did they
Benicio
make it so confused so quickly?
the Benicio del Toro Wolfman movie was one of the worst, I think.
I don't think that was part of this, but
You're right.
I
Okay.
remember watching it in theaters. I thought it was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
I think the only
I
thing
don't
that came out
remember
of
the-
that
yeah,
was Kong Skull Island, because I know Monarch was supposed to be like the
Yeah.
shield of that stuff, and you still had Kong Skull Island actually work
Yeah.
with that in there.
With that said, though, and not to derail from Fraser talk, but talking about Universal monsters, I'm really digging like the Blumhouse new take on Universal, like with the Invisible Man, and
Yeah.
I can't like they're gonna do I think Dracula next, and
Yeah, because I think
isn't,
they basically, when the Dark Universe imploded,
yeah, they're
Blumhouse
like
was like, all right, we'll take
Yeah.
it.
well, isn't
Yeah.
isn't Nicolas Cage playing Dracula in
He is.
yeah, I'm not sure if that's Blumhouse though.
But no, that's a different thing that he's playing Dracula, and I can't
Yeah.
remember though.
What I dig about Blumhouse is that it takes these old-fashioned monster concepts but modernizes them.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm curious as what they could do with Dracula. Like I almost hope I know I'm making my own movie in my head, but I almost hope they like do something with like cannibals, like kind of
And
like
you have to be careful
on-
which version you
know.
do, depending on which ones you get the rights
I
to.
know.
yeah, be careful.
That's cool. I mean I dig it. I always love the
Because-
monster universe, so
I would love to see
Exactly.
maybe
Cool.
a remake of the Monster Squad or something like that. That'd be fun. They could put all the characters in there in one movie.
yeah.
All the monsters.
I mean, isn't that the go-to, like to make a Marvel universe or like a movie universe? So
I was gonna say, I mean,
That's what
Universal.
everybody wants.
I would say
Yeah.
Universal was. I would say Universal was way ahead of Marvel in terms of doing a shared universe with
Yeah.
their IPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate movie news like this actor, or this director really wants a universe out of their movie. I'm like, of course, like who wouldn't say no to like having
Keep
an
me employed for the next
expanded
decade.
right, exactly. Oh, I don't want more money. I don't want more fame.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
do a
No
universe,
franchise fees
Yeah.
for me.
Right.
No, thank you.
right.
Well,
Right, like-
Spielberg had that rule for a while.
Okay, like I was reading something about R.R. Martin, the Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
and he's like, I would love to have a Star Wars universe out of a game. I'm like, of course you would. Like tell me something we don't know.
The final film that Brendan did in the 90s, in 1999, was Dudley Do-Right. And what a lackluster way to finish out the decade. I mean, come on. He did so
It's
much.
unfortunate because George did
Another-
everything right that Dudley did wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was sort of glued together where they were trying to recreate the George of the Jungle magic, and it just missed in every way.
Yeah.
The overemphasis on the villain. Who is he? Snidely? No,
Finally, Whiplash.
Stanley
Snidely
Whiplash.
Whiplash. One of the list of names of people I always say, why would you never name your child that? Because you know they're going to grow up to be evil.
It's
Yeah.
just disappointing because everybody was expecting like a mummy type movie.
No, I thought everyone was expecting another
George of the
George of the
Jungle.
Jungle.
Yeah, it was
I
like
was
I was
hoping for
expecting
another
a sequel to
Whipple
George, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
would
thought it was
be-
going to be like a spiritual sequel to George of the Jungle. But it wasn't. That wasn't the case.
And then a year later, they would come out with
2
Rocky
years
and
later.
Bullwinkle. The Rocky and Bullwinkle live action.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, a year later. Yeah, the Rocky
Yeah.
Bull.
Which
But,
also
Can we
missed
do-
the well. If you ever watch Boris and Natasha, that was a much better movie.
was that animated or live action?
Live
Live
action.
action.
Who was in that?
Oh,
Well, in the Rocky
they're really
Bullwinkle,
famous.
De Niro was.
De Niro was in
Yeah.
it.
That was the
Yeah.
Rocky and Bullwinkle movie. Yeah.
Same director.
Yeah, that was Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, I forgot the guy's name. Forgive me, but the same director as Manchester by the Sea.
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Like at world's ends from each other, like it's just like.
Mhm.
But it's the only time where we heard De Niro do his famous line again. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we are out of time for this first half of the Renaissance Under the Radar. And yeah, I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight. This was amazing. And any final, halfway thoughts?
I'm very appreciative over this show today, Randy. I didn't realize I was a closeted Fraser fan. So Like,
No,
I
I'm
don't,
just-
yeah.
He said to pull it out of you.
Chris is going back and like sadly taking
my
down
God.
his Tom Cruise movie poster.
Oh,
Brendan
he's
Fraser.
He is going back and he is realizing that he has had a blind spot. He's been a horse racing
Yes.
past all Brendan Fraser movies
He
and doesn't
sees
see
the
them.
light. He sees the
I've
light.
seen the light, yeah. No,
I'd
I'm,
say it's a blast from the past.
oh.
Nicely done, Sal.
You know, I have to, watch a lot of Fraser films that are in my blind spot so I can Dudley do right.
And look, even though he Dudley did
Touche.
wrong.
Oh my god. I'm just bedazzled.
Getting there next time.
You're saying boo.
I don't know. I don't, have,
Ernst,
I don't have any good. I don't have any good puns. I feel like such an airhead.
Well, then we will ink heart until next time.
Good night, everybody. No.
Yeah, all right.
Save the 2000s for next time, guys. Plenty of puns to come.
Oh, I'm laughing so much. I can't believe I'm still breathing.
Oh my god. I feel younger and younger. No. But guys, this was fun as always. I wish we had all night to talk Brendan Fraser. I think we covered a lot of ground tonight, and I cannot wait till part 2. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun as well. But guys, thank you. This was amazing, and I want to thank everybody watching at home. I'm Randy Younger. This has been Under the Radar, our special Brendan-ssance episode, part 1. We'll see you next time for part 2. Take care, guys.